5 years, and in 2012 I started changing my work, and gin like totally changed my life. My first gin conference was in Lima, Peru in 2012. I took a group of 3 girls from all of Colombia, and we presented on terrorism and peacekeeping, because in Colombia at that time, and still at this time, the FARC and terrorism and an internal conflict was something that people feel really passionately about and get really scared about. And so for these young women, talking about that and going to Peru and talking about their country and the pride they have in their country, but having to solve that global issue was something that was really, really cool and really, really powerful for them. So those 3 girls went off to college, and they're in college now. And I would say each of them followed their passion. And we can talk a little bit about that. Some of them had that nervousness that, oh, I really care about the world, miss, because I really want to study graphic design. Do I have to, like, do gin my whole life? Does anybody feel like this? Like, get a little nervous about what you really want to do versus what you're good at versus what you care about? And so, yeah, some of my students have definitely gone on to make their lives still remembering their gin experience, but pursuing what they're really good at and what they love. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But the first thing I want to do, just as like a really quick introduction, because like I said yesterday, this is a network. Come on in. If you want to drag chairs from another room, you can. We knew it would be kind of packed, or you can sit on a desk like this guy. You can take this chair. If you want to wheel this over there. That chair. So, well, the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to do a really quick introduction of yourself. So, don't get nervous. We're going to do this super fast. What you're going to do is we're going to go around and you're going to say your name, where you're from, and you're going to say 3 words. Whatever 3 words you want. Okay? These 3 words can like describe how you're feeling right now. They can describe what your issue is, but like what brought you to gin? What do you care about? Why are you in the room? So it's going to go like this. Okay? So here we go. I'm going to say Maggie Chumbley, Seattle, Washington. Innovation, design, plastic. And then the next person goes, okay? So what it doesn't look like is, hey, my name is Maggie, I'm from Seattle, my 3 words are, hold on, let me think, art, okay, do you see the difference between 1 and 2? Okay, name, where you're from, 3 words. Let's start right there. Yeah.
My name is, okay, Marisa Garza, happy, fun, and lots of fun.
Andrés Fernández.
Stand up.
Andrés Fernández. Happy. Optimistic. And.
A little faster.
Digo,
Don't forget to tell us where you're from. Please stand up.
Alexia Rivera, Honduras. I dancing, being happy.
Very good. Next one.
I'm Dominique Tome, Honduras, friends, family, and innovation.
Yes. I'm Marine, Guadalajara, Jalisco, arts, animals, and plastic.
I'm Cecilia La Peña from Mexico. Water, awareness, and education.
Right here.
Gabriela Lanzas, Nicaragua, education, equality, and girl.
Gabi, Mexico, Torreon, food, ice cream, dancing.
Great. Next one. Miguel.
Miguel Angel, Honduras, excited, comfortable, and happy.
Natalie Blandon,
Oh, we
Nicaragua.
can't hear you. Go ahead.
Natalie Blandon, Nicaragua, help kids and poverty.
Gaby Aguirre from Torreon, love, respect, and earth.
Sergio de la Garza from Torreon, Mexico, inspired, happy, and comfortable.
Alejandra Garcia, Nicaragua, equality, voice, and dedication.
Juan Pablo Sada, Mexico, Monterrey, Mexico, and happy, fun, and soccer.
Daniela Cañas, El Salvador, equality, opportunities, and inspiration. Honduras,
architecture, design, and fashion.
Yep, grant for proof, empowerment.
Humanities came from the Dominican Republic, education, tutoring, and orphans.
Let's all keep our voices quiet so we can listen to every person. Go ahead.
Georgian, Panama, education, equality, and special
Gerardo Medina, Monterrey, Leadership, Congress, Initiative.
Daniel Rodriguez, Monterrey, teamwork, tolerance, and leadership.
Mariana Treviño, Monterrey, happiness, society, and leaders.
Felipe Monsalve, Medellin, Colombia, technology, community, and confidence.
Azul, Puebla.
Nervous, happy, excited. Nicola Luis, Puebla, children education programs.
Daniel Ruiz, Puebla, Mexico, rights, change, and inspired.
Sofía Loje, Puebla, things, art, and happy.
Carol Arias, Puebla, volleyball, music, and lyrics.
Barry, Medellin, Colombia, technology, money, innovation.
Ariel Franco, Peru, leadership, determination, and confidence.
Okay, so if you're taking notes, how many of you guys ever have to run meetings with other people in your school? Anybody have leadership? Okay, positions. Okay, I want you to copy me. Just copy me with this thing we just did. Do this when you have to do a meeting with people, especially when you're getting started at the beginning, because it takes forever for each of us to introduce ourselves. If I said, tell me your first and last name, tell me where you're from, tell me why you came to Gin, we would have taken the entire 45 minutes to do that, right? So a lot of times we skip it, but copy me and try this out, because this is a great way for everybody to feel like they have a voice, right? You kind of feel a little better, like, okay, everybody had to do it, here I am. And you might have heard something from somebody and be like, I'm going to go talk to that guy, because he said something about creativity, right? Like, I want to go talk to Graham and be like, what's your empowerment thing about? Let's talk about that. We're going to have a little teacher talk, because I heard him say that. So that's part of the networking. So I just want you guys to file that away, okay? There we go. So I put on my Facebook on March 11th, which was last week. GLF is called the Global Leadership Forum. It's an international summer program that we teach global leadership. It's a program that I run in New Mexico. And I've done it for 4 years, so I know a lot of people, mostly your age, because they come in grade 9 and 10 and 11 in the summer. And then we all stay in touch. This is our Facebook alumni page. And so I said, hey GLF, next week I'm speaking at a global youth conference, right, at GIN. In Mexico, it's a bunch of young change makers like you, and I'm supposed to kick off the whole conference. What should I talk about? Okay? So I got some responses. Here's some of the responses I got, and I put the countries that they're from. But we're just want you to skim through this and kind of see what people said. So Juliana's from Nicaragua, and she says, talk about creative thinking to solve problems and about getting out of your comfort zone. Okay? That's kind of what we did yesterday, definitely about getting out of your comfort zone. And get your ideas and projects out there. She says, those are the two things I learned most about with you, and they've been really helpful. Okay, so here I am like, great, Juli, everybody else jump in, because this is a network of 45 people at least who should be jumping in here. Okay, so Jordan from the US, she goes, maybe talk about how to create change in an apathetic or resisting community. Does anybody else work in an apathetic or resistant community in your school or in your local community? Okay. You know what, you're not alone. We all ask that question, like, why don't people care, right? I ask that question all the time. I started to learn about teaching people to care, and I learned a lot about, remember the finger wagging idea? Or how people must be passionate about what they're doing and not just do it because they think it's the right thing, okay? Remember, do it because you love it, okay? Ali Dean from Tajikistan, he remembered when we went camping, and he said he loved that. It's a really good experience to be away from things that they're busy with, such as your phones and computers, and you get to see and know each other well. He goes, talk about solo time. Let me tell you a little about solo time.
No?
I'm sorry?
Solo.
Solo, meaning alone. So during our program, we said that every other day or so, everybody would just have like an hour to be by themselves. could use a phone, you didn't have a computer, and you just sort of like chilled out. Sometimes you would journal. Some people hated this, right? They were like, I'm so bored. Can I have my phone? Have you ever done that before? Okay.
I never have a phone. I'm 18. I never had a phone in my life.
Okay. So, interesting advice. He was like, maybe, talk about taking care of our inner lives a little bit, right? When we get quiet, whatever you do to relate to what you think is true in the world, whether it's to pray, or to rest, or to sit silently, to sing, do a little bit more of that. That's what Ali Dean had to say. Virginia talks about, you don't have to create your own project, you can just jump on with someone else's project. Okay? She's from the United States. Let's look a little bit more. Vernisa from Bosnia, she says that you can't help everybody, but at least you can help somebody. Keep that in mind. Don't get overwhelmed, is what Vernisa says. I feel like that's really, really important. Okay? We tend to get really overwhelmed. There's so much to do. I mean, there's 20 global issues. Like, how do you even pick one? Okay? Rama Kulkarni from Hong Kong, she says, talk about the power of compassion. She's like, that's the best aspect of design thinking, in my opinion. We talked a lot about design thinking. It starts with empathy. Goes back to that shut up and listen idea. Does anybody go to that presentation? Has that happened yet?
It's Sunday.
It's Sunday.
It's Saturday.
Okay. All right. I won't spoil it.
Please.
The shut up and listen thing. Okay. Ilsa from Latvia. She says everybody's unique, right? And there isn't such a thing in life that you couldn't accomplish because of who you are and where you're from. Other people don't define you. So she's like, really go with who you are. This is awesome advice. I was like, you guys could give this presentation. I'm just going to let Facebook do the work here. Okay. So here I am chiming in again a day later. I was like, great, who else wants to tell me? This is my favorite. Nassif Rincon from Colombia. He goes, talk about the power of music and singing. Okay, Nassif loves art. He almost convinced me to try to teach you guys a song yesterday. Like, I almost did it. Like I said to one of the young women from ASFM, I was like, do you think if I made them sing that anybody would do it? And she was like, I don't know. And this guy's like, no, that would never happen, right? And Nassif is interesting. Nassif comes from a school where, singing and being artsy isn't really cool, but we did a lot of singing and creativity in our time together, so it was interesting. Once you pulled him out of his culture, his home culture, and he's with a bunch of other people, it didn't really matter, right? He just did what he wanted, so it was really neat. He goes, perhaps you can gather a small group beforehand and teach them Ballet Mama, which is this song, and have the whole auditorium sing during your speech. What do you guys think about that? Just saying, comes from a 17-year-old Colombian guy, that's what he said. All right, last comment from Allie from the US, she says, I remember when you told me that first, if you start to feel passion for change, you're going to feel kind of weird, right? It's going to be a little uncomfortable, and it's going to be difficult to start breaking away from what everybody else is doing. Okay? So, I want to jump into this a little bit further. That's a lot of different advice. Okay, there's a lot of different things going on, but I'm going to guess that a lot of you read something here that you were like, me too. Raise your hand if you had like a me too moment. Like, yeah, me too. I've definitely felt those things. Okay, great. You are on the right track then. Okay, it's supposed to feel weird. It's supposed to feel a little overwhelming, right? You're supposed to have that like, is this really what I want to be doing? Okay. Lucky for a lot of you, gym became something at your school, so it became something like kind of mainstreamed. Okay. So let's talk a little bit more about what this might mean. I want to share this idea with you. I'm going to check the time. I am done at 12:05. Right? Okay. So Thomas Merton, he's a Christian mystic, and he died centuries ago. But what he said was, he says, don't depend on the hope of results. Now that sounds like a really horrible thing to say. Like, you're doing all this work you're doing, you came in and you researched all these different things, and we're kind of like, this might not work. You might actually make the problems worse. Does anybody have that where like you tried to do something and you just made it worse? Does that happen to anybody? Can I hear from some of you what happened? Like, what happened that made it worse in your story?
Like, we went to the school and like tried and helped, but like physically we wanted to help like in the structure of the school, but it was like almost better than our school like physically, so we had like nothing to do there. And we shot up the
Okay, awesome. Any other stories about how it felt like you just made things worse? And then over here, you guys had some hands up. All four of you had hands up. I'm curious. Are you all together? Oh, what do you think?
From the project that we are presenting, I don't think that we did something worse. But in my personal experiences, I really like cooking, and sometimes by trying to change a recipe, making it better, you ruin it completely.
Awesome. That's a great metaphor for it, right? You're trying to change your recipe. Tell me, Miguel, what happened?
It's from a personal experience. One day I was trying to repair my earphone cable for my iPod. So I opened my iPod and I accidentally broke the battery cable, so it wouldn't be able to charge anymore.
Okay, great metaphor, right? Once you get in, iPhone's a great metaphor for this because a lot of these problems are what we call systems, right? And systems are all these interacting components that make a whole, okay? And when we really talk about change making, we talk about systems thinking, which means that you can't actually just pull one piece out, right? This is a great story. At CPLIT, which is the international school in Venezuela, they came to Jin and they were like, okay, we're going to completely eliminate plastic from our school, and we're going to do it on this day, so that the day after there's just no plastic, okay? Can you imagine the disaster that this was, okay? So they were using small plastic cups to go to a water tank and fill that, and the primary school students especially, so they didn't sell water bottles like a lot of schools do, and this is what was happening. The little primary kids were going to the water fountain, and they were putting their hands over it, and they were cupping the water, and some kids were drinking under the tap like this, okay? Did they make it worse? Maybe, right? Maybe made it worse, okay? But they definitely learned a lot. Is it over?
It has to be gradual.
Yeah, tell me more.
No, you were saying that everything has to be gradual. You can't just think that everything's going to change from the next day.
Okay. Or you have to prep people, right? Yeah. Or you don't say that's bad, we're not doing that, and then you take it away. Right? That takes a lot of time. Personally, who's working on plastic in this room? Is anybody in my life, I try to eliminate my use of plastic, and it's probably. And I live in North America now, so there's more. A lot of times, there's other options like stainless steel and like all these earthy green stores where I can buy reusable bags and all that stuff. It's probably took me 3 years though to really find out how do I use deodorant? How do I use a razor? What kind of shampoo do I use? That took a long time. And a lot of those products weren't available when I was living in South America. So it's really, really tricky. But I want to push this idea further because I'm not telling you don't try at all, but I'm going to tell you something else about this idea of hope. This is kind of long. I'm going to read it to you. So Sharon Salzberg, she's a Buddhist. She's someone that I read a lot about. So when I talk about that quiet time, she's kind of someone that I get a lot of my thinking from. She says, you have to face the fact that your work will be apparently worthless and even achieve no result at all. I'm not saying that this is going to happen, but it might. It's not perhaps results opposite in what you expected. As you get used to this idea, you start more and more to concentrate not on the results, but on the value, the rightness, and the truth of the work itself. You gradually struggle less and less for an idea and more for specific people. In the end, it's the reality of personal relationships that saves everything. It's a long, long quote. What it really means is it doesn't actually matter as much where we're going, but how we're getting there. How we're getting there, okay? I want you to think for a second, what kind of personal relationships did you guys create in coming to Jin? Okay, for example, did you get to know a teacher better? Did you get to know somebody better who wasn't necessarily one of your friends before Jin? Does anybody have any stories to share about that? Personal relationships?
I was being bullied since I was in the beginning of 6th grade. I was being bullied.
Yeah.
And since I went to Jin, I created new friends that could listen to me and I could listen to them. And for me, it's pretty good.
Yeah. Okay. So it's been a lot about personal relationships.
That's not the point of the conference. No.
I think it is. I mean, I'll say today that that's the point of this, because if we can't work together, how are we gonna change anything?
Just talking about global issues, but
Yeah, knowledge is free. You can find out stuff on the internet all the time. I'm talking about how to work together. Thanks for your story. Let me hear another story. Yeah.
When I was in high school and I did gin in 12th grade, it started here in the school, and I was one of the only seniors who was doing it. And it was weird because none of my friends were doing it. It was all younger people, and even like 7th graders. So I got to know younger people, and they had great ideas, not because, and it didn't make a difference that they were younger.
Yeah. Does anybody else have that experience? You're younger and you got to know older people, and you were older and you got to know younger people? You know, that happens a lot. In my time working with teenagers, I say the biggest barrier to change making is not, again, money, time, it's social inhibition. It's social barriers where you're like, I don't want to work with that guy because I don't really know him and he seems kind of, I don't know, not like my friends. Does that ever happen? This happens a lot. Okay, any stories where you guys wanted to share a story?
Well, we are best friends, but when we got here, like all of the other guys from our school, there's like 8 other people, and we really didn't know any of them at all.
Wait, you're on the same gym team?
Yeah.
How did you practice together? Oh, okay.
We're like 2 different teams,
Okay.
but we're the same school, and we came. It's a program of 2, so we basically work together,
Okay.
and then we have this like huge team, which is like 3 years younger than us, and we didn't know them at all. So
Okay.
we came here, like we met them like during the trip.
Tell me how that's going.
Very well.
Like how? Like what? You think you? Tell me more.
Yeah, okay, like it's really nice to get to know like those small kids in our school. Like we didn't know them at all. Like we'd seen them maybe in a hallway sometimes, but
Not even.
not even, yeah. But we got to know them, and it's really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
And
Yeah.
we've got to know a lot of people here, and like tons of people across different parts. Like
Awesome.
interesting.
That makes me so happy to hear. You know, the Facebook I just showed you guys, like, there's people in completely different countries, like, you guys, and they are all friends because of the experience they had together. So if one of those people posts on the Facebook, hey everybody, I'm trying to start this project in my school and it's not going well, like, kids are making fun of me, I can't get my principal to talk to me, they're going to post on that Facebook, and you know what? A bunch of people are going to post back and they're going to say, keep trying. This is what I did. Do you guys want to Skype and talk about it? Let's all Skype together and talk about it. Now, talk about sustainable change, right? Because you're going to try to be doing this stuff in your whole life, and we tell you, you're going to get discouraged, okay? I've been an educator for 7 years, and there are some great years, and there's some years where I'm like, why do I even do this anymore, right? This is so hard. Why do we do this, okay? You have to create those relationships. It's not going to look like you thought. Do you want to share a story?
It was like about the ages, the difference. When we were going to present to elementary, how like it seems so hard to try to explain it in different words so that they understand. But on the contrary, the little kids, they had such amazing minds about how they would change the world. And I was having a conversation about a little girl that I was with a little 10-year-old that I thought I would never have with someone that age, and it was just incredible to know that such a small age they would do that.
Yeah, and completely accepting. Yeah, you walked in and they were like, we worship you, right? Totally accepting. You didn't have to like make it fun. You just had to talk, and they were like, we want to know.
Interested.
Awesome. Thanks for your story. Awesome. Yeah.
To add to that, I felt like when I was their age, like I taught the 5th graders, but I felt like when I was in 5th grade, I didn't know as much as they knew about their topics. Like kids were talking about
Child abuse.
Yeah, child abuse. I probably
Yeah.
didn't even
That's
know what
intense
that
for a
was.
fifth grader. Yeah, yeah.
So,
I was playing like with dolls.
yeah.
Totally. But everybody gets to know. Yeah. Good point. Another story. Yeah.
I realized that how hard it is to explain how a solar panel works to like a 2nd grader. So I was like, well, the light hits the solar panel, and they were like, and what happens when it's cloudy?
You're like, you're still like,
I was like, I said, the light hits the solar panel, and it was really hard. And I ended up explaining to them why bad water kills you.
Instead of the solar panel?
Yeah.
You were like, let's
those
go
were my
with something
exact
easy.
words. What happens when you drink bad water?
Okay.
And they understood perfectly.
Okay.
I had a learning experience this one.
Awesome. Do you think those second graders get to know about these things though? Or should we only let second graders know about like cartoons and toys?
I think a little bit of both.
Okay, good. I think that's totally right.
But more like a
There's a lot of wisdom in that. But they do get to know, right? Everybody gets to know, even if they might not change their words a little bit. Awesome. Any other stories about changing your personal relationships?
Like,
Yeah.
every time that we have a gym group, I always get to be like such good friends with them, and I didn't even talk to her here. Like one of my best friends now, and I didn't even talk to her. Like I knew her because we were like 3,
Yeah.
but I never like was so good friends.
Amazing. Amazing. Yeah.
I think we should take her. It's her birthday.
Oh.
Oh,
We do it at the end. So we do it at the end. It'll be like our final goodwill. That's a perfect way to end it. Okay.
So we have like a double birthday.
Oh my goodness. That's one of my favorite things about Latin America is the birthday thing. Birthdays are so secret. Fantastic, you guys celebrate. Okay, so I'm going to talk about a little bit more about this, but all of your stories. But yours is a great example. What's your name? Ana Lucia. Ana Lucia has a great story because she's like, you know, we weren't friends before, and now we are. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, but this is supposed to be a very serious conference about global issues, right? Why are we talking about, like, a new friend, and, like, why are we talking about that? Like, why is it relevant? I'm here, I'll tell you. I'm here to tell you that it is, honestly, I think the only thing that's relevant. And this is why, because there's a hierarchy of this, right? If we can't do it together, we're not going to get it done. I heard a quote the other day, which was, the people who believe in peace need to organize just as well as the people who believe in war. You notice that? People who believe in war, they seem to have all the bases covered, right? They got a lot of technology, they got a lot of money, they got a lot of belief systems, they kind of keep everybody in line, and they're very efficient at it, right? Very efficient at it. Oil and gas industry, very, very good at getting their money, right? Lots of experts, they just have rallied, right? But what if we apply that same kind of technology and that same kind of closeness and shared mind to peace and sustainability, okay? But how does that happen? We have to believe that it'll happen, right? Nobody's going to want to work with you if you're saying this. And also, if you're sad because you don't have any friends, you're not going to want to work on anything, right? Human beings we have to give this, we're the ones who are going to change it. If we're going to turn the ship, it's got to be us. And no one's ever done it alone, like ever. So in the history of all entrepreneurism, has anybody ever dreamed of starting a company? Does anybody have that dream? Totally, okay. I actually started a consulting company, employee number 1, me, and I learned this lesson really the hard way. Never, ever in the history of starting a company has anybody ever been the person who does the market research, right, who pitches the idea, who gets the initial capital investment, who manages the accounting, does the advertising and marketing. There's never been one person who does all of those things. Why not? Because they can't manage. You can't, right? It's too much. No one's ever found a company by themselves. You have to get your friends to help you. How are you going to get your friends to help you? You got to be friends with them, right? Number 1, you got to be friends with them, okay? So I just wanted to drive that home, and I'm going to transition to the second piece of this little workshop. How are you guys doing? We good? Is this your hand raise or is this a stretch? Okay. All right. So let me transition. This is the part we're going to write some things down.
Phil Kennedy's books.
No.
It's pretty awesome stuff. He talks about how to make friends. How to go over here.
Can I pause you and can you tell me after, just because I'm on a timeline? But I want to know about it. Maybe we can have lunch together. Okay. So this is the content part that I want you guys to walk away with. And I want this to be your new lens for how you see change. Okay? There are 3 kinds of change that we need to turn the ship, right? Remember the ship I told you about yesterday? Like we got this big cargo ship and we need to make it into this like sleek sailing vessel where everybody gets to help getting their own work. The first kind of change that we've seen is called holding actions, okay? A lot of your schools have worked on holding actions. Holding actions are things like the actions required to slow the damage. We're just like, whoa, 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 we just need to slow the damage here. Okay, that's like getting rid of plastic bottles. Okay? We're just trying to slow things down, stop the damage, okay? We want to protect the Amazon, right? Stop cutting down the trees, okay? Stop putting pollution. We just want to like, whoa, 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 stop doing this, okay? Many other schools are doing this. This is a great way to begin, okay? I'm really excited. I was looking at the gym offerings for this conference, and I was like, whoa, a lot of people are going past holding actions, okay? Holding actions are important, but we need to take it up a notch, okay? The second one goes like this. We need to create new life-affirming alternatives, okay? So you get rid of those plastic bottles, but what are they going to drink out of instead, right? Out of their hands? That's what happened in Venezuela, right? Little kids, like, bad idea, right? We have to create alternatives, okay? What does that look like? We look for the structural cause of our problems and we spread new solutions. So it's finding new ways to live, okay? Let me give you some examples. Putting in bike paths, right? Changing our education system. I'm here, there's a lot of gym workshops on education, which is awesome. Finding new ways to grow food, right? The old ways aren't working so well, okay? So creating new life-affirming alternatives. How are we doing? Does this make sense? Okay, so the first one is holding actions like just stop using plastic. Second one is, well, if we're not going to use plastic, what are we going to use, right? We still need to brush our teeth, go to work, drink water, right? Sometimes I feel like we get a little overwhelmed with all of the plastic usage, and we're like, I just need to go live in the woods and not talk to anybody, right? That would be the only way to not cause harm on the planet, and that's not going to happen, right? Okay, third one, which is the one that we're starting to get to today. Producing a shift in consciousness, which is what happened with Lucia? Ana Lucia. With Ana Lucia, she was, or you guys were like, oh, talking to young kids isn't such a big deal. Right? Okay, so what does producing a shift in consciousness mean? It means changing our values and our perception of reality. It really is. It's like, oh, I actually see the world differently now. And that's where we get that sustainable change. So what does that mean? Honoring the wisdom of native peoples. What does that mean to you guys? I'm curious. What does honoring the wisdom of native peoples mean in your countries?
You can't just change them like all of a sudden. You have to understand how they live first. And like if they have several traditions, you can't just say like, no, there's harm to the environment.
Right. Has anybody noticed in your countries that the native people seem to know a lot about how to take care of the planet? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh my goodness. That's happening a lot in my country, North America. Like, you know, the white folks are like, we need to like be in community and like honor the earth, and the native people are like, we've been doing this for centuries. You've been ignoring us, okay? This is that happens a lot with indigenous communities. Indigenous people are like, we know how to grow local food, we know how to use sustainable agriculture, we know how to honor people's lives, right? And to have family. We know how to do all this stuff, so why are you telling us uncivilized? Okay? I'm sure there's been a lot of debate. This is the second one that I think is really, really hard and I want to dig into. Confronting the spread of materialism. Oh, that goes right back to the cabin in the woods idea, right? How do we do this? Okay, I'll just speak from my perspective. I'm a woman. I live in North America. I live in Seattle. Seattle is a shoe city. Like, women have made shoes in this city. I don't know what the deal is. It's because it's rainy and we have to have several types of shoes, maybe. Like if it's sunny, we can wear shoes, we don't have to wear socks. If it's rainy, we have to wear shoes with like rubber on them. And sometimes I take the train and I can't wear high heels, but sometimes I want to wear high heels. You know what's results in girls, you feel like you gotta own a lot of shoes, right? Maybe you're like, no one will be my friend if I don't own a lot of shoes. Has this happened before? Or the day you have new shoes, people seem to be really nice to you that day. And you're like, maybe this is why people are nice to me, because I have really cool shoes, right? Or I have a new handbag, or I'm in fashion. You know, the most annoying thing about fashion, you know, this goes on with men as well, but you guys kind of get a pass sometimes, is that it changes. Like, 2 years ago it was like tops that are slim, and now it's tops that are big, and then it was like don't have really long pants, and now the pants are short, and then it's like skinny heels and fat heels, and you know what I'm saying, girls? Like, good Lord, it's ridiculous. So, how do we confront that? That's a really, really tricky one. A lot of it comes from friendships, right? You want to feel like I'm loved and accepted no matter what I'm wearing, right? A lot of it comes from that. But I want you to really think about that. Sometimes it just means little things, right? Do I need that new cell phone? Do I not need that new cell phone? How much how much do we really need? What, is shopping a recreational thing, or is this, do I actually need this? These are all things I'm sure your parents have taught you. As you get older, you're going to be making your own decisions, right? You're going to be spending your own money, and you're really going to be asking yourself, how do I live my life, and is it aligned with my values? Very, very tricky. And I'm not saying I have the right answer on this one. I'm just asking you to think about it, okay? Last one, challenging the stereotypes of people who are different. This one's really tough, because we have to figure out what the stereotypes are, right? And then we have to figure out how to talk about it and not do any of this to people. But that produces the shift in consciousness, okay? People you never thought you could work with, okay? People you thought, well, I don't know if they're going to be able to do this, or it's all their fault, right? I'll tell you my biggest one was my stereotype. I have a really, really hard time having compassion for the people I think that are like sitting in boardrooms, running big companies that damage the environment. Okay, I was in Venezuela about 1.5 years ago, and I was in Puerto La Cruz, which is where Chevron is. That's where the refinery is for all the oil, right? And it's a pretty intense place. But I drive a car, right? I use gasoline. And I think to myself, oh, it's just all these men in business suits, and they're just awful, and I'm over here, like, living my life the right way, right? No, that's not really going to do it. Who's going to want to work with me if I talk about it like that, right? I had to really think to myself, what is my stereotype? And I thought, you know what? These people are just trying to feed their families as well. This is just what they were taught, right? So that's my big one. I want you guys to think into more how you're challenging the stereotypes of the people that you think are different. Because the more you can bust that down, and you've already shown me examples of like, I never thought I'd be friends with that guy, or great one, we thought we were going to come help this school, and then we showed up and we didn't know what to do. And that was really, really hard, right? So doing a lot of listening, okay? Shifting consciousness. So I didn't make a slide with all three, but let me go back through real fast. And you can see the three. So, 3 types of shifts. Holding actions, so we're slowing the damage. The second one is new life-affirming alternatives. And the third one is producing a shift in consciousness. Okay, so what you have in front of you is a piece of paper. Before we leave, before we sing happy birthday to the 2 people that are here, what I want you to do on that piece of paper, and I'm going to write these on the board so that you can see them. I'm going to make a 3rd slide. Is I want you to think of an example different than the ones that I gave you that are in these things. So the first one is called holding actions. The second one is called new alternatives. And the third one is called the shift in consciousness. Okay, so on your paper, you can number them like this. So this is what your paper looks like. Here's your paper, right? You're going to put 1, 2, 3, and I want you to put an example of something that comes to mind to you, something that you could do or something that you know is being done that is a holding action. Okay, but number 3 is a little special. I want number 3 to be super personal for you. What is the shift in consciousness that you feel like you want to learn more about, or that you feel like you really want to make? Okay, I'll tell you, my shift in consciousness right now is about, in my country, in my society, my own personal shift in consciousness is confronting race. That's my big shift in consciousness. Like, it is totally time for people like me, people who are white, well-educated, wealthy, who are privileged, to wake up to the fact that not everybody lives like that. So I'm doing a lot of conversation, asking my friends who are not white to teach me, right? That's my shift in consciousness. That's Maggie's, that's what's going here. Mine's all about race right now. That's something that's really valuable. So again, examples, and then your shift in consciousness, what it is you need to work on. Take a few minutes to write it down. questions for me? Any questions? Do you need any paper? Do you have more paper?
But if you need it, I can show you. Do you have a paper?
How's it going? Makes sense? Good, okay.
You guys need pencil?
Oh, here, there's a pass here.
No pencil. You need your pencil? You good?
Synthesize, no sé, el material. Synthesize
Soy humilde.
Soy la persona más humilde.
Soy tan humilde.
Do we make it, like,
Yeah, make it specific. Just want you to think into these. The idea here is that these three levels, you can look at somebody else's project and you can be like, that's clothing, that's an alternative, and that's just happens to see it in different parts. So that all projects have all different parts. Alright, we'll take about 2 more minutes for this. You're not married, disease, okay? Yeah. Think of some examples of more personal the better, but I don't want too much pressure. Yeah. Like an example of alternatives is like solar panels. You don't say like save energy, don't ever turn the lights on. You say use solar panels.
So like, yeah, you're better, like, even extreme something that's possible.
Yeah, something for people. And we say don't drive your car, ride a bike, but then give me a safe place to ride my bike, you know. Alright, I'm looking for people to share. Anybody from the table willing to share their shift in consciousness? I have no idea.
We are still thinking about it.
If it's just about like what we talked about, which is like becoming friends with people who that's like think about something in your life right now that you spend on that, and that might be like, would you next year do you take school seriously? You would prefer working with boys than girls? If yours are similar to this, that's fine. Like mine would also be confronting the spread of materialism. Like I struggle all the time with my own, like wanting to buy things and all that you share with me. Yeah. Okay, anybody can share. Anything that kind of makes you feel like hard or uncomfortable, that's Alright, anybody from the table willing to share? Not willing to share? Anybody from the table willing to share? You're gonna share? Oh, I just said, oh, no. That's what you're thinking. Oh, okay. Do you mind sharing this one? That sounds like pretty safe here. What's the context of it? Right, but you're already that's something that's for you. Think about it. Alright, it is almost time to wrap up. So, can I get your attention back up front here? Can I get your attention back up front, please? Okay, first of all, some really, really amazing discussions happening, which I'm really excited about. So I'm really glad you're willing to talk about this stuff. Second thing I'm noticing is that we're having a hard time with number 3, making it personal, right? Like, that was tough. Like, and so my idea was to have 4 or so people share, but I'm not sure there's 4 people yet who are ready to share, which is fine. Something I've been saying to a few of you is, if you don't know what your personal shift in consciousness needs to be, think about something that probably makes you uncomfortable, that you're kind of resisting, that's probably where it is, okay? And it can be the same as mine, right? If it's like, I really want that new iPhone, how do I deal with it, right? Maybe you need a new iPhone, I don't know, only you know, right? How do we deal with that? My hunch is that many of you are dealing with the one around friends and people, right? How do you include everybody in your class, everybody in your high school as somebody that you could work with and would spend time with?
Sorry.
Okay, yeah?
We missed drop off the position because we have an auditorium.
Okay, I'm just thinking now. Okay. Can I get any one person want to share what their shift is?
I share.
Yeah.
Jamel. We were talking about Jamel's project is about him. You come from the Dominican Republic, and they have a project where they go into work with students who work in an orphanage.
Before you finish, you guys?
And so we talked about. I think you've talked about tutoring kids because they don't get the attention they needed. Yeah. And then Jamel's put down the second thing for his new alternative is changing the teachers and the teaching system so that we don't have to go and tutor them. They've got better teachers. And then we just started having a conversation about the third alternative. And that is thinking, not how can we improve teaching for them, how can they teach us something? Too often we never ask that question. What can we learn from them? There's a very famous guy in India. If you look him up on YouTube, I've seen this thing once. He started a thing called the Barefoot Academy. Look up the Barefoot Academy. It's a fascinating story. His one criteria for the school that he created in the middle of nowhere in India was that nobody who went there had any qualifications. He didn't want a single teacher with a single qualification. Because he said, growing up in a village, the one thing you learn is that everybody has a skill. So the only criteria for his school was that you bring one skill. So nobody in that school, no teacher, has anything. They come with no qualification, but one thing to give. Look it up, you'll see the story, what they've done. They've won global awards, they designed, built their own school, solar powered it, the whole thing. No one believed them. Barefoot Academy, and that's where we got to with you.
Okay, great. Thank you for your share, Graham, and thank you for coming. And please talk about this with your friends, what you learned, and have a great conference.
We're singing happy birthday.
Oh yeah. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday.